Who are you? I want you to take a minute to think about who you are. What makes you you? How do people know that you're you and that you're not someone else? Why are you the way that you are? How have you been influenced by the people around you, by the school that you went to, by the culture that you grew up in? All of these questions are metacognitive. Meta meaning transcending or beyond, and cognition, which is the process of knowing. It's thinking beyond thinking and being aware of your own awareness. And I want you to think beyond. Think about your own thinking, who you are, and how you came to be here today. So we all start out as an embryo in our mother's womb. We're born, we go through childhood, adolescence, and adulthood, and then eventually we die. And these are all pictures of me. Of course, some I like to show off when I was really cute little kid. Others, during my teenage years, I try to keep private. So the first image isn't me, of course, but you can see what I looked like at different ages. And we can agree that this is all the same person. Or at least you trust me enough to know. You trust me that it's the same person. One of the things that stays the same, even though we see these differences, is our DNA. So since the discovery of DNA, we continue to have a better and better understanding of who we are from a biological perspective. How much our DNA influences us, influences our personality, is still debated. But our DNA is a blueprint for all of the proteins that are in our body. And our DNA plays a huge role in the actual functioning of our body. And we also pass it on to our children. So I have a combination of my mother's DNA and my father's DNA. And I always like to tell them that I only got the best parts of their DNA, none of the bad stuff. So there are clear differences if we look at a 4-year-old me, very cute, of course, and a 30-year-old, 33-year-old. Even between a 23-year-old and a 33-year-old, there is a difference. Of course, in my mind, I still think I'm 23, but then I interact with a 23-year-old, and then I realize, yeah, I'm definitely not 23 anymore. So what happened? Well, every day we consume food, and our body breaks down those foods that we're eating and breaks it down into its basic components. It goes through the process of digestion, and it's broken down, let's say, into amino acids. So this afternoon I had some chicken. That protein in that chicken was broken down into amino acids that my body uses to make other things. It'll make things like amylase in my saliva, or components of my cell membrane, or DNA polymerase, which helps with copying DNA. All of that food that enters our body is broken down for parts and made into new compounds that our body uses for new purposes. Not only the food we eat is becoming part of our body, but right now, as we're breathing, we're taking in oxygen molecules that diffuse into our bloodstream, and we're exhaling carbon dioxide. And even the carbon that's in the carbon dioxide that you're breathing out was part of the glucose molecules in the food that you ate. Water, urea, and other wastes are being eliminated from your body and re-entering the environment. So our bodies are just one stop on many atoms' journey through their respective cycles in our ecosystem. Right now, you're also going through the process of mitosis. You have new cells, you have cells dying, and really, most of the cells in your body are only 7 to 15 years old, some less than a day. So, from a biological and chemical perspective, my 4-year-old self is completely different than I am now. It's made up of completely different atoms. Our bodies are not the same, yet I'm still me. So, am I the chicken that I ate for lunch? I think we can agree that I'm not a chicken. However, every day of our lives, we're changing, biologically and chemically. we're using molecules that enter our body to make new things. So perhaps we can think of ourselves more as an ever-changing body of molecules. And from a biological perspective, the purpose of this is to continue consuming materials and hopefully reproduce and pass on our DNA. And some scientists would even say that we're just merely slaves to our own DNA. If we think about it another way, without that chicken, the other things that I eat, the oxygen that I'm breathing, I can't exist, you can't exist. And therefore my existence is dependent on the existence of those things. I can't live without them just as much as I can't live without my brain. So what's the difference between the things in the environment that I need and the things inside of my body that I also need? Am I only my body if my existence depends on those things? Am I actually separated from my environment? And so what about from a social and emotional perspective? Who was I when I was 4? It's hard to remember. I know I liked playing with Legos. I liked watching cartoons. I depended a lot on my parents and my grandparents, and I was greatly influenced by them. I'm from an American middle-class Caucasian family that lives outside of Buffalo, New York, and my relatives immigrated to the United States between the 1800s and early 1900s. And these characteristics defined who I am and have also influenced the way that people treat me. And so all of these characteristics and all of these things that I'm experiencing from my environment influence who I am. The values of hard work, integrity, and independence were ingrained in me from a young age. My family has a love for the outdoors, for music, and the passion for lifelong learning. I learned that I should continually explore the world, to push beyond the limit of my understandings. And without those experiences, I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't be me. Not only do things like that influence us, but also challenges. Challenges influence this body of ever-changing molecules. I can still remember the bullies of my childhood, particularly in middle school. Here you can see a picture of me in, I believe, 6th grade with my also cute sister. And I still remember the names and the faces and those moments of interactions with those bullies. I even remember one time being huddled in a corner in the school hallway crying. And this type of stress can even impact your DNA. And through the study of epigenetics, scientists have discovered that stress can actually influence your DNA, and that can be passed on to your children. And to be honest, I never had much confidence when it came to interacting with other boys, specifically very typical boyish boys, because I never really felt like a typical boy. I didn't like all the typical boy things. And the other boys knew that and would point it out. And really, this is the way of society influencing this ever-changing body of molecules to follow very traditional norms. And even today, this is an insecurity of mine, but those experiences shaped who I am. Even as a teacher, it's influenced me, because I want to make sure that the students in my classroom feel that they're supported and cared for and accepted for who they are. So because I was supported by my family, I knew that I could always push myself. I knew that I could always overcome obstacles, even if they didn't always have the answers or knew how to help me through those challenges. So now we have an ever-changing body of molecules interacting with other ever-changing bodies of molecules. I reached 18, graduated from high school. People always say that going away to college is challenging. For me, it really wasn't. I wanted to experience new things, wanted to get out of Buffalo. If you've been to Buffalo, you might know why. Lots of snow. After that, I moved to New York City, which was a lot more challenging. I was 23, didn't really have any money, was probably quite naive. And it was 2008, and during that time there was a big recession, and it was difficult for me to find a teaching job. And I worked at a restaurant, ran out of money, moved back home. What am I doing with my life? And then I decided to go back to school and then eventually move to Taiwan. Now, that was a challenge. New culture, new language, my family's far away, first full-time teaching job, the first taste of stinky tofu. Yeah, not tasty in my opinion. A lot of firsts, lots of challenges. But from those challenges, I learned patience, that it's okay to rely on other people, that making money isn't always everything, and the importance of leadership and collaboration in schools. All of these experiences that I've had, from being 4 all the way to 33, to even today, even 1 second ago, and has had an impact on this body of ever-changing molecules. Even preparing for this talk has had an influence. I'm not who I am today, at this moment, right now, this second, without those experiences. So we can ask ourselves, is what I think of as me separate from the world around me? Can the me of right now exist without that kid that bullied me? I would say no. I would not be who I am today if it wasn't for that bully. And molecularly, I wouldn't be who I am today if I didn't eat that chicken for lunch. So Alan Watts made a fantastic analogy about who we are. He said, a living body is not a fixed thing, but a flowing event, like a flame or a whirlpool. We are an ever-changing whirlpool of molecules, interacting with other ever-changing whirlpools of molecules. We, as we are here and now, cannot exist without those interactions. And what happens when that whirlpool stops spinning? The molecules of our bodies rejoin the ocean of the universe and eventually become part of another ever-changing body of molecules. So as you go through life, notice the interactions you're having, however small, and think that you are you in that very moment because of that interaction, the thought that you're having, the food that you ate. You cannot be separated, whether biological, chemical, or social. You are bound to it, forever changing. So take a moment again to ask yourself, who are you? Thank you.